Hello, dear friends and colleagues. I am Adura. I am happy to welcome you to the Organ House Concert and Seminar Series. The Organ House Concert and Seminar Series is an interdisciplinary research initiative that provides creative and intellectual spaces for scholars, composers, performers, educators, and professionals. Through rigorous engagements, conversations, the series champions an academic, artistic, and creative research agenda that is rooted in local realities while maintaining global relevance. The Organ House research agenda is premised on promoting innovative and critical approaches to research in music, composition, performance, and the exploration or documentation of Nigeria and Africa's musical cultural heritages. Once again, you're welcome to the Organ House Concert and Seminar Series. Before I call in our presenter for today, please be reminded that our international hybrid symposium for Organ House Concert and Seminar is coming up July 13 to 17, 2026, representing African music in a changing global order, reflecting on African musics and studies in African music today. It's going to be a period of interesting and serious conversation and discourses by various presenters, both hybrid and on-site. Please be reminded of this symposium. Also, please follow us on our social media handles, on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, Organ House Concert and Seminar Series, and importantly, on our YouTube space, which is the digital archive for our documentation of African musics and all conversation around African musicology. There you can find our past seminars, and even this session that is currently holding is going to, you'll be able to find it there. You can please check the comment section for a link to our YouTube content space. Thank you very much. Now, we are happy to have our presenter for today, Grace Ifeoluwa Adegoke. She obtained a bachelor's degree in music from the Mountaintop University. She's a music scholar, performer, educator, and researcher with almost half a decade experience. She's currently pursuing a master's in ethnomusicology at Mountaintop University. Focused on folklore and everyday political narrative in contemporary Nigeria. Please welcome our presenter, Grace Ifeoluwa Adegoke. Grace, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Adura. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank the organizer of the Organ House Concert and Seminar Series for the opportunity to present my research. My name is Grace Adegoke. My presentation is titled Lagbaja, the Marxist Persona, Music and Folklore as Political Narrative in Contemporary Nigeria. This presentation examines how music and folklore function as mediums through which political meanings are produced, negotiated, and communicated in contemporary Nigeria. Using Lagbaja's 200 Million Mumu as a case, I explore how Yoruba folklore, music performance, satire, iconography, and symbolism are employed to construct narratives around nationhood, citizenship, and everyday life. Once again, I'm glad to be here. So, permit me to share my slide with you. The relationship between music, folklore, and political commentary is a commonplace in Nigeria's social history. Across different historical periods, musicians such as Albert Ogunde, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, Dan Mariah Jos, and more recently Lagbaja have employed indigenous cultural resources as tools for social commentary and political engagement. Their works demonstrate that music in Nigeria has often functioned beyond entertainment, serving as a medium through which social realities are interpreted and contested. In discussing popular music and social life, Christopher Waterman, 1990, characterizes popular music as a public arena for symbolic negotiation of continuity and change, meaning music becomes a social space where identity, values, and collective experiences are negotiated. Waterman's argument is important because it moves our understanding of music beyond sound and entertainment. This perspective provides an important entry point for understanding how political ideas have been communicated through musical performance. Berger and Del Negro, 2004, page 3 to 4, describe folk song as the aesthetics of everyday life, arguing that expressive culture should not be viewed as separate from social life, but as an integral part of it. For them, folklore is not merely tradition. It is a resource through which people make sense of their everyday experiences. They further argue that expressive arts are not passive reflection of life, but active media through which meanings are produced and communicated. Mike D. Cachol, 1984, on the other hand, examines how ordinary people negotiate structures of power in everyday life. De Cachol distinguishes between strategies and tactics, describing tactics as the act of the weak, page 37. While powerful institutions create and control social structures, ordinary people employ creative practices to navigate and respond to those structures. Folklore, particularly folk song, is one of these tactics through which people interpret and comment upon social realities. Within Yoruba cultural discourse, scholars such as Drowon, 1978, and Omajola, 2012, have demonstrated that cultural heritage and folklore, particularly the Egungun tradition, function more than just a ritual performance. Drawer, for example, highlights the significance of satiric and ridicule marks, page 18 to 19, suggesting that masquerade performance can serve as a platform for social critique. The mark therefore becomes not only a religious symbol, but also a medium of cultural and political commentary. It is within this broader scholarly conversation that Lagbaja becomes significant. Omojola 2012, page 189, explains that Lagbaja marks represent the faceless masses of Nigeria who experience economic hardship and political marginalization. Through this marks personnel, Lagbaja brings Yoruba folklore and everyday life and political discourse into conversation. His work therefore provides a useful lens for exploring how folklore functions not merely as tradition, but as a medium of everyday political narrative in contemporary Nigeria. While scholars such as Omojola 2012 have examined Lagbaja's use of Yoruba identity, performance practices, and musical hybridity, there remains a need to explore how folklore operates within its music as a vehicle for communicating political ideas. I ask, how do music and folklore function as media for political narrative in contemporary Nigeria? To address this question, I focus on Lagbaja's 200 Million Mumu album. The album provides a useful case because it combines folklore, satire, symbolism, verbal art, and musical performance to engage issues of governance and citizenship. I draw on Pierre Bourdieu's 1979 concept of habitus to explore the relationship between folklore and everyday political narrative in contemporary Nigeria. Bourdieu explains habitus as the necessity internalized and converted into a disposition that generates meaningful practices and meaning-giving perceptions. Page 170. In other words, habitus refers to the socially acquired dispositions through which individuals perceive, interpret, and respond to the world around them. These dispositions are not formed overnight. They emerge through repeated experiences within social, cultural, and political environments. For Bourdieu, habitus function as what it described as a structured and structuring structure. Behaviors become normalized when within everyday life. This perspective is particularly relevant to the Nigeria context. Everyday experiences of governance, economic hardship, political instability, social inequality contribute to the formation of dispositions through which citizens understand political reality. I argue that Lagbaja employs Yoruba folklore, musical performance, and the mass persona as embodied history, which he converted to resources for constructing political narrative around about nationhood, citizenship, and everyday life in contemporary Nigeria. Therefore, presentation demonstrates how this process unfolds through musical performance, folklore, and construction of everyday political narrative in 200 million Mumu. "200 Million Mumu" was released in 2012 amidst widespread public dissatisfaction with governance in Nigeria. This album provides a useful example of this process. Rather than attributing Nigeria's political challenge or challenges solely to leadership, Lagbaja draws attention to what may be described as an internalized disposition of political compliancy among citizens. His critique of the Mumu condition reflects an attempt to challenge what Bourdieu calls the generative principles, through which people perceive and respond to their social world. Viewed from this perspective, folklore becomes more than cultural expression. It becomes a medium through which political consciousness is questioned, negotiated, and potentially transformed. Habitus therefore provides a valuable framework for understanding how Lagbaja uses folklore and music to engage everyday political life in contemporary Nigeria. Lagbaja's music is characterized by a fusion of Afrobeats, highlife, Fuji, Juju, jazz, funk, and Yoruba traditional music. This combination reflects what Omojola 2012 describes as the interaction between indigenous traditions and contemporary musical influences. Through this hybrid style, Lagbaja creates a musical language that remains rooted in Yoruba culture while engaging broader contemporary audiences. In engaging with Lagbaja's musical style, Omojola 2012 observed that Lagbaja music draws on antecedent Yoruba styles ranging from indigenous traditions to modern neo-traditional forms, while also incorporating non-Yoruba influences, including European and African American musical elements. Page 189. This hybridity is reflected in Lagbaja's fusion of Afrobeat, highlife, Fuji, Juju, jazz, funk, and Yoruba traditional music. Rather than treating these genres as separate musical categories, it combines them to create a distinctive musical style. Amojela notes that Lagbaja traced many of his chant-like and rap-like utterances, not to American hip-hop, but to traditional Yoruba performance practices, embodying what many scholars have explained as musical syncretism, the creative interaction between indigenous tradition and contemporary influences. So to get a better view of this statement, I'll be playing one of the songs in the album, 200 Million Mumu. And the title of the song is Dust to Dust.
The Baba get the power, man fit shakara for some time. God the Baba get the power, one day, dust to dust.
The only one that has grip on power is God. Are you a believer at all? Are you a believer at all?
Are you supposed to answer the question? Are you a believer at all? Jehovah is never deceived. He knows what he wants. Actions speak louder than words. Chairman, as you know the Yantori with God's name. This not how him they hear you. This not waiting God they hear.
Tell me, who is as powerful as me?
Sorry. Thank you. In terms of the stylistic nuances, 200 Million Mumu features call and response structure, just as we were seeing in the video, improvisation, chants, indigenous percussion, and audience participation, which are not uncommon in Lagbaja's performance. It creates a musical space that allows audiences to engage political issues through culturally meaningful frameworks. The album occupies an important position within Lagbaja's body of work because it brings together many of the themes that have consistently characterized in his musical practice, including folklore, satire, social commentary, and political engagement. While Lagbaja has produced several socially conscious albums such as We and Me in 2000 and Africano, The Mother of Ruth in 2005, 200 Million Momo is particularly significant because of its direct engagement with questions of citizenship, nationhood, and political responsibility. The expression "mumu" is a familiar term within Nigeria everyday communication. It is often used to describe a person who is naive, passive, or easily manipulated. However, the significance of the album lies not simply in its use of humor or ridicule. Rather, Lagbaja employs the expression as a cultural metaphor through which broader political questions can be explored. Unlike many forms of political commentary that focus exclusively on leadership, Lagbaja redirects attention towards the relationship between leaders and citizens. His argument suggests that political problems cannot be explained solely through the actions of those in power. Instead, he invites the citizen to reflect on the attitudes, behaviors, and social disposition that shape everyday political life. This perspective is particularly useful when viewed through Bourdieu's concept of habitus. As Bourdieu argues, social practices emerge from deeply internalized disposition that shape how individuals perceive and respond to the world around them. In many respects, the figure of the Momo can be understood as Lagbaja critique of an internalized political disposition, a condition in which citizens become accustomed to political dysfunction and begin to accept it as normal. The album therefore moves beyond entertainment to become a site of political reflection. Through humor, satire, music, and performance, Lagbaja encourages citizens to question the assumptions that govern their relationship with the nation and with political authority. At the same time, the album draws extensively on Yoruba folkloric tradition. Its language, symbols, performance style, and communicative strategies all reflect the indigenous mode of expression that make political commentary culturally accessible. Rather than delivering a formal political speech, Lagbaja communicates through cultural resources that the citizen already understand and recognize. For this reason, 200 Million Mumu provides a particularly useful lens for exploring the relationship between folklore, music, and political narrative in contemporary Nigeria. The album demonstrates how popular music can transform everyday experiences, cultural symbols, and folkloric practices into vehicles for political discourse. The political discourse of 200 Million Mumu lies not only in its lyrics, but also in its mobilization of Yoruba folkloric resources. Rather than relying solely on direct political speech, Lagbaja draws upon cultural forms that are already familiar to his audience, thereby making political commentary accessible, recognizable, and socially meaningful. A significant folkloric element in the album is satire. Within Yoruba oral tradition, satire has long functioned as a means of social correction, exposing undesirable behavior through humor, ridicule, and indirect criticism. The repeated use of the term mumu throughout the album operates within this tradition. While the expression appears humorous on the surface, it simultaneously serves as a critical commentary on political apathy, social compliance, and relationship between citizens and power. The album also draws extensively on Yoruba verbal art and oral tradition. As scholars have explored proverb chants, prose poetry, and oral narrative, which often function of as communal knowledge and social commentary, Lagbaja adapts this expressive tradition within a contemporary musical setting, allowing folklore to remain relevant within modern political discourse. Another important folkloric resource is the Egungun mass and symbolism. Draw 1978 argues that masquerade traditions are not merely ritual performance, but dynamic cultural spaces where social meanings are negotiated and communicated. Particularly important is a discussion of satiric and ridicule marks, page 18 to 19, which serve as a vehicle for public critique. Lagbaja's Marx persona draws on this tradition. The marks function not only as an artistic identity, but also as a symbolic device through which social and political realities can be questioned. Omojola 2012, page 189, explains that Lagbaja's marks represent the faceless masses of Nigeria. This symbolic representation allows him to move beyond individual expression and assume a collective voice. Through these marks, he speaks not simply as an artist, but as a cultural mediator, articulating the concerns, frustration, and experiences of an average citizen in Nigeria. Taken together, satire, verbal art, oral tradition, and Egungun symbolism transform folklore into a medium of political narrative. Lagbaja demonstrates that folklore is not merely a remnant of the past, but an active cultural framework through which contemporary political realities can be interpreted, narrated, and contested. So let's listen to the part one of 200 Million Mumu.
Leader is wicked, but follower is wickeder. Big man wicked, but common man wickeder. Leader is wicked, but follower is wickeder. Big man wicked, but common man wickeder. Babangida, Abasha, Ọbásanjọ́ àti rẹ̀ gangan, ẹ̀yin mẹ́rẹ̀ẹ̀rin ọ̀kan. You no different from them at all. You be the same. Shout. Babangida, Abasha, Ọbásanjọ́ àti rẹ̀ gangan. Lagbaja, ọmọ bàbá mùkọ́, ọmọ ìyá èèmọ̀, ọmọ bàbá Joseph lọ́dọ́gún, ọmọ bàbá James lágbègbà, ọ̀dọ́gún àgbègbà join together. Mama.
One of the central themes that emerged from 200 Million Mumu is the question of nationhood and identity. In part one, just like Lagbaja said, he invites the citizens to reflect on what it means to belong to the Nigerian nation and how national identity is shaped not only by political institutions, but also by everyday social experiences. His music suggests that the nation is not an abstract political entity, but a lived reality continually produced through the actions of both leaders and citizens. Rather than focusing solely on formal political structures, Lagbaja draws attention to the everyday experiences of an average Nigerian citizen, including economic hardship and social inequality. In doing so, it demonstrates that politics is not confined to government institutions, but is experienced within the routines and challenges of daily life. These themes are particularly evident in one of the songs that I played earlier, Dust to Dust. In the song, Lagbaja reminds his audience that all human beings, regardless of status or political authority, will ultimately return to dust. The song therefore challenges leaders who position themselves above the people or behave as though political power makes them invisible. By emphasizing the inevitability of death, Lagbaja critiques arrogance, corruption, and the abuse of power, while simultaneously reminding citizens of the shared humanity that binds the nation together. The song also illustrates how music functions as political discourse. Music becomes a medium through which social realities are interpreted. Finally, the album raises question of citizenship and belonging. Through his critique of both leadership and followership, Lagbaja encourages citizens to reflect on their responsibilities as members of the nation. His argument suggests that nation building is not the responsibility of political leaders alone, but requires the active participation of citizens. Taken together, these themes demonstrate how music and folklore function as important sites through which political meanings are produced, negotiated, and communicated in contemporary Nigeria. Sorry. So I'll be playing 200 Million Mumu Part 3 to emphasize more on our final slide.
But why things go happen? Nothing go happen. Now 200 million Mumu.
200 million.
So your people go they chop them from successor to successor. Sorte your picking self go they pass them down.
I'm a successor. I'm a successor.
Oh yes, pass them down.
2 down. That's 2 down. 3 down. 4 down. 5 down.
Pass them down. Nothing go happen. Now 200 million. Oh yeah, impress your mumus with big Oyibo name. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready?
That's right.
I don't hear you.
Yes, now.
1, 2, 3, ito.
Chirac said that to me. Tony Blair said that to me. Clinton said it to me. Bush Jr. said it to me. The bank, they said the same thing to me. The president of World Bank said the same thing
When
to
all
me.
these leaders are your friend, why you no come be like them? Make this place self better.
Ngozi was telling me, Ngozi came in to do the footwork. Ngozi came in.
This Ngozi you dey shout now, you know appreciate am now. No be so you.
Sorry.
But why thing go happen? Nothing go happen. Now 200.
Finally, there are 3 important elements from this video: the musical structure and performance, the use of folklore and symbolism, and political commentary in this performance. First, the song employs repetition, call and response structure, rhythmic patterns, and audience engagement. These elements transform the song from an individual artistic expression into a collective social experience. The political message is therefore communicated not only through words, but also through participation and performance. Second, throughout the performance, Lagbaja's masked personnel remains central together with the people performing with him. Drawing on the symbolic authority of the Egungun tradition, the masks function as more than a visual identity, whereby you can only hear the person talking but can't see the person's face. As he puts it, which brings us to the contemporary time, according to Lagbaja. We have a lot of people behind their keypads talking about the nation, but when it's time to negotiate physically, they are nowhere to be found. And that was one of Lagbaja's cry. Then finally, humor and satire, direct social observation. Lagbaja addresses issues relating to leadership and citizenship. Rather than presenting politics as something distant from everyday experience, the performance demonstrates how political realities are embedded within ordinary social interaction and cultural practices. When considered together, these elements illustrate the central argument of this presentation, that music and folklore function as important mediums through which political narratives are constructed and communicated in contemporary Nigeria. The political significance of the performance lies not only in any single element, but in the interaction between musical structure, folkloric symbol, and political commentary. In conclusion, music and folklore in Lagbaja's work function not merely as cultural expressions, but as important sites of political narrative in contemporary Nigeria. Through 200 Million Mumu, Lagbaja employs Yoruba folklore, including satire, verbal art, Egungun symbolism, and performance tradition, to construct narratives around nationhood, citizenship, and everyday political life. Through music and folklore, Lagbaja reveals how ideas about nationhood, citizenship, and collective identity are produced, negotiated, and communicated within everyday Nigerian society. Thank you.
Wow, Grace, thank you very much for that presentation. That was insightful. Taking us into the masked persona, satiric, and socially impacting musical work or work of Lagbaja. That was insightful. Thank you very much for the presentation, Grace. Yes, I myself have a question to ask, but I will hold on with mine. At this point, I am inviting you, dear friends and colleagues, to unmute your mic and participate in this discourse, to ask your questions, seek clarifications, or if you have something to say regarding this work, share your perspective, share your ideas, because this is a platform where we can, put in, chip in our perspectives. Please feel free to unmute your mic, and you could please feel free now to unmute your mic. We'd like to hear from you, share your own perspective, ask your questions, and we'd love to hear from you. While I hold on with my own question, I have a question for Grace. Thank you for the presentation. Yes, please, dear friends and colleagues, kindly unmute your mic. If you have a perspective to share, please ask your questions, share your perspective. Let's hear from you. Let's hear your own view. Thank you. All right. So while we wait on our friends and colleagues, Grace, can I just engage you a bit? And uh, I growing up, I know Lagbaja. At least I can remember one line from his song. This thunder, thunder. So I wonder. So this political angle to his music, was it that there was a time he pivoted, or there was a transition time when he entered into political singing, or did he not explore entertainment or maybe any other function of his music? Has he been political all the way?
All right, thank you for that question. For this presentation, it's based on the album 200 Million Mumu, and it speaks to the current state of the country. But um, in the broader scope of my thesis, I pointed that Lagbaja also embodies other functionality in music, but we can, in the scale of 1 to 10, we can arguably say that Lagbaja speaks more on the political dynamics of the country.
Thank you, Grace. Yes, dear friends and colleagues, it's time. You can please unmute your mic. Oh, thank you. I can see a hand from Dr. Ajose. Dr. Ajose, thank you. You have the floor.
Yeah, Grace, if that's your name, if I got it correctly. Thank you for your presentation. And I must say that it appears to me that you have a mastery of what is before you in terms of analysis. You reference and then thank you for again for how you have been able to illuminate Bourdieu's ideas of habitus. I'm also wondering, I mean, my reflection and maybe a question would be, beyond Bourdieu, how do you see the exploration of Omojola's work on music and politics, especially where he tries to, examine the work of this? Sorry, I've forgotten his name now. I remember the name later. How he tries to, look at how he examines the work of. Why did I forget this? This okay, I remember later. And situate like the musicians work within political discourse, in Nigeria, especially around democracy. And then maybe you are not also familiar with the work of Samuel, who looked at Lagbaja within the discourse of cultural diplomacy, and leadership. So the point I'm making is that how do you put Lagbaja within the context of existing literature, especially Africanist perspective on popular music, popular musicians, and discourse around leadership in Nigeria? So the point I'm making is you may need to bring these voices into conversation so that your work doesn't stand in isolation. Yes, you have established the theoretical grounding that you give to your work, but there are also scholars who I think bringing them into conversation with your work will give your work, that how do I put it, that grounding that you need because you're in conversation with others. So if you are aware of that, so my question is this, maybe I'm done with my reflection. If you're aware of Omojola's article on music and politics and the musician that he worked on, how can you situate Lagbaja within this? And then you talk about mask. I'm thinking that what was Lagbaja also masking with the metaphor of Mumu? What was he masking? Was it masking the gullibility of the followers or that of our political leaders as at that time? And one more thing I think I missed out, maybe if you can provide this, maybe I missed out or you didn't talk about it. What was the context around the production of that 200 million Mumu? What was the context that that informed or that shaped Lagbaja's habitus in trying to to sonically represent and also visually represent those the situations around that time? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ajose. So I'm going to start from the last question to the first one. The Lagbaja, like I said during the presentation, had always spoken about politics and leadership. But this song or this album was released in 2012. And before then, we had a new a new president in 2010 who is in the person of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. And before that time, we've also had people from the same political party treating Nigerians the same way that they've always been treated. So his impression was, why on earth are you people going to vote in the same party that have made you guys go through the same economic hardship that you guys have been going through? And that is what brought about this particular album. Then the second question you asked, please can you um,
Reiterate.
yes.
Dr. Jose, thank you. Could you please kindly reiterate?
The second question.
Yes, I was asking if the case study of Omojola, I don't know why I forgot. Ike Dairo, yes, no, it's not Ike Dairo. It's Ike Dairo. I can't remember. Sorry.
That's not the second
Hello.
question. You asked a
Victor
question.
Olaiya.
Olaiya, thank you, Dr.
2009 article.
Victor Olaiya. Thank you, Dr. Ayode. Yeah, Victor Olaiya. How would you put that conversation of Lagbaja? I mean, Bourdieu Omojola's examination of Victor Olaiya's within the Nigerian politics, politics or the political context in Nigeria, and this case of the 200 million Mumu, because both Victor Olaiya also drew on his understanding of folklore, his understanding of its cultural music, to also contribute to political discourse. So how would you, if I'm asking because you pointed to Omojola in your literature. So I was trying to maybe if there's a parallel or the line of point of departure from these two musicians. One, Olaya came much earlier than Lagbaja. And how does this play out within the whole discourse around music and political narrative, nationhood, and all that? And then I said that okay, the other one was not a question, was just to call your attention to, want to look at ethnomusicological discourse or musicological discourse around Lagbaja and its figuration and leadership in Nigeria. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. So based on the scope of my study, I limited my work to Lagbaja strictly. And also, I didn't elaborate so much with, because it isn't a comparison. It is just mainly Lagbaja and folklore I was dealing with. So that's, I can say, is the scope that I was dealing with. And that's why my work centered on that without deviating into Victor Laya and addressing Omojola's work as regards Victor Laya.
All right. Thank you so much, Grace. Dr. Kade Samuel, your hand is up. Thank you, Dr. Joseph, for the comment and um, for your perspective and the questions. Dr. Kade Samuel, are you
All right.
able?
Thank you very much for this. Grace Adegoke, let me thank you for your presentation. I've actually enjoyed listening to you. And let me start by making these comments. I hear a voice that is a distinguished voice of a scholar that is in the making. Your presentation is bold. You made assertive statements. You made some claims, and I find so many of them anchored in scholarly conversations. And I think to a large extent, you have also supported your positions with existing authorities on the field, on the subject matter. This is very good, and I think it's a hallmark. We should commend this so that young scholars too, who are also developing, will know what the platform provides for you to do and what is the standard. So thank you for that. I think also, secondly, your presentation is also strong on the theoretical framing and how you're able to weave the narrative within the concepts within your topics. It's quite intriguing, and I will say, let me now come to some of my comments. I would like you to just reflect on them, and maybe I have one or two questions for you. I think you also need to look a bit deeper. You have done a lot on engaging scholarly works, but I think there are also some other voices who have also worked specifically on Lagbaja. So there's Ajayi. There's also most recently Adejube's doctoral work is also, I want to encourage you to take a look at that. And I think yours truly, yours sincerely also, I think I have a few contributions on Lagbaja's work. Lagbaja is a musician that is quite dear to me, very, very close to my heart. And so your topic really resonates with what I really am very much interested in. So my question, and then also suggestion for you. You tried as hard and I think you tried as much as possible to present how music and folklore function as tools for political narrative using Lagbaja. But I think one thing that I think you missed out in your presentation is to clearly identify that Lagbaja's music, including the one you have chosen as your case study, 200 Million Mumu, can be described as Afrobeats of the Fela Kuti's making genre, when you want to classify as a genre. And so the need for you to make that clear distinction between or identifying the fact that Lagbaja's music is a potpourri. He actually, at the time, some people would describe his music as confusing because he moves around with different, he had experimented with several genres of music. So sometimes he sees music as Afrobeat, sometimes it's jazz, sometimes it's folklore, sometimes it's pop. You know, he moves around. So when you now label it as folklore, I think there's a need for you to make that clear distinction. But I'm happy towards the end, you clearly identified some elements. You try to distill the elements that essentializes the folklore within the context of your discussion. So I think that's also a very good one. But I think it should come out sharply. And as a musicological discourse, you should identify those works, Dust to Dust and the 200 Million Mumu, which is, of course, Dust to Dust is from the album 200 Million Mumu. But both of them, the examples you played for us, are actually Afrobeats. Simple, straightforward. So now let me also suggest that you separate your claims of the reading of Lagbaja's song text, which I see as representing your findings, from the artist's position, because you did not interview Lagbaja, so you're only making reference from your reading. And so there's a need for, because when you're making your contribution to knowledge, it is when you are reflecting to say, oh, this is your understanding of the readings of the media text, and this is what you could deduce from it. I think there was a mix-up there. Your voice was clearly muffled. We were not clear. I didn't hear you clearly whether it was you speaking, interpreting Lagbaja's works, or Lagbaja himself presenting those things as facts. I think it will help you when you are making clarification so that we can truly appreciate the contribution to knowledge that your presentation is making. I also agree with Dr. Ajose's contribution and suggestion on the need for you to provide clearly articulate the context of performance of 200 Million Mumu. It will help you, because when you provide that context before you now introduce us to the music, your listeners or your readers will understand it better than for you to assume that they understand the context. Remember that you will not be writing only for local audience. There will be people who have never met or even did not know Lagbaja's music or what it represents. So providing that context will always be very good for you to, as a platform for you to now introduce us to what your work is. And then finally, what will be your reflections considering Lagbaja's music of that time? We are talking of 2000 and 2000 about, we're talking of about Good Luck Jonathan's period. Now we've had Buhari. Now we've had 3 years of Tinubu's reign, which people have described as Shege. What do you call it now? Something Shege. Pro Max, Shege Pro Max. If we are saying the issue of leadership and followership symbolism has been implicated in the recurrent governance failure, how true is that even up till now? So if you look at that, we can say, oh, would Lagbaja not can he not be described as a prophet? Or how different is what his claim would be from what Fela had always stood for, and essentially other musicians who had engaged in social commentaries about the political state of the nation. So in other words, I think I want to see you reflect also how current, how real, and how applicable that work when it was to today's realities. But again, I really want to thank you and appreciate you. And thank you for obliging me all this opportunity to make contributions. Please keep the work flying. I see your voice being clearly heard too. Very strong. Thank you. Grace.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Samuel Kayode. Just to reiterate on something, I made mention of that in slide 4, where I said that 200 million Mumu was released in 2012 amidst the widespread of public dissatisfaction with governance in Nigeria. So it was highlighted that one of the things that prompted the release of the 200 million Mumu album was because of the whole chaos that was happening in the country as at that time. And if I'm speaking from my standpoint as a thinker and a scholar, I would say that there is still a cyclic motion of what happened in 2012 still happening in 2026. And when I was addressing Adura's question, I said that I explained most of these things in the broader knowledge of my thesis. And in the finding of my thesis, I went through some comments that were being made as at that time, and I compared it to the comments that are being made now on the what's the name now on the streaming platform of these songs, and I saw the similarity of how people were complaining about the governance and how they are complaining about the governance as at this time. And if you want to look at now, we are going into election next year, and if you want to look at the same issue going around, you can see how the government are still giving the citizens something, and the citizens are applying or are they are wanting to go for the same set of people that made sure that they suffer. So, like I said, it's just like it's going in cyclic motion, and maybe in what's his name in Lagbaja's word, maybe there are truly 200 million more, and the 200 million just represents the statistics of the Nigeria country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace. Thank you, Dr. Kayode Samuel, for your reflection, perspective, and recommendation. Now we have Dr. Ayodele raise his hand. You have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, let's start from the last, the person that answered. Prof, thank you so much. It's so nice to see you today.
Thank you very much.
It's quite a rare privilege to have you. I think I saw you last week also. Yeah, but this week is more visible. Last week, maybe you came in, you went out. But today I can see that, yes, this is actually something that is very important for you. Thank you so much. For those that know Professor Samuel, they will know that he's one of the, we can call him one of the scarce commodities of Nigerian musicology. Scarce commodities in terms of, not just in terms of quantity, in terms of value, if you understand what I mean. Yeah, so thank you so much for your presence today. It meant a lot for us. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, so now to Grace. Grace, I think what you need to do, like Dr. Samuel just said and Prof. Kayode Samuel just explained, you need to note all these things. They're very important for, not just for this presentation, for your thesis and the future of your research in this line. Yeah, in the future is quite important, and laying the foundation is quite extensive. So the context of 200 million Mumu, we want to see that in details, specifics. I remember there's fuel subsidy 2012, 2011, 2012. Those are the contests. So when you talk about, when Prof said contest, we want to see that story, like we say, of course, that storyline. Tell us the story, what really happened, lay the foundation, then draw these resources, to draw this content out of it. So it's positionality of this particular Mumu, this album. So in specifics, not in general. Of course, we know Nigeria, like any society, Nigeria operates in a cyclic mode that tends to reproduce the past. Also, like you quoted Bourdieu verbatim. So one thing about Bourdieu is also that it speaks about practice, and now certain practice reproduces another same forms of practice, and those practice becomes culture, they becomes ideology, they becomes economy, and they shape how people behave across time and space. So we need to see that reality. Yeah. So just take notes, I think, of everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Oladele Ayorede, for reiterating these perspectives and for the unique perspective you also brought in. Thank you so much. Yes, friends and colleagues. Oh, yes, we have Dr. Samuel. You have the floor, sir.
Grace, please.
Okay, so
Can
we
you hear
can't
me?
hear you yet.
Yes, I
Grace,
Professor
can you hear
Kwade
me?
is also going to come
Yes,
after you. Dr.
Grace,
Samuel.
can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, Afe saying he cannot hear me, so I'm wondering whether Afe. Okay, so maybe others can hear me. Okay, Grace. Well, just have. I hope your grace will be sufficient for me to make my comment. The grace of God is sufficient for us. Well, I was not asking you to engage in a kind of comparison, with Victor Lyons' work and all that. But I'm saying that, what I'm just saying that it will be helpful because you are in a community of discourse. So,
Sir, we can't hear you again.
it's not just coming from you. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm saying that will also help us understand, the history, social history or musical history of, musicians, or the role of musicians in nation building. And I'm saying that you need to grant this in a.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of
So I'm not saying you should do
fluctuation.
that's just to ask, or just to. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, it's
I can.
audible now. Thank you.
Okay, did you hear what I said? I'm not saying you should compare two musicians together, but I'm just saying that in your discussion, it would be nice to bring yourself in discourse with all of this, especially bring your case, a study, looking at it from the past and then also thinking of the future. I just want to ask, maybe I'm just thinking, this is my thoughts. The metaphor of Momo, I'm also looking at it, retrospectively, looking at Fela's Zombie, and how popular musicians, they draw on these subtle yabis, to talk about serious issues, and how this also speaks to the folkloric logic of, or cultural logic of musicians, hiding under the humility of being musicians to speak truth to power, while mobilizing, the lead. So all of this, bringing us in and forth of this will bring in conversation with history, will bring in conversation with the intellectuals, discussing this matter. So that's all I'm asking you to do. I'm not saying that. That's what I'm asking you to consider. I'm not asking you to do. So I'm just to clear that it's not about comparison, but to bring like I said, you have mastery of the work. It's obvious, but you will do well to bring, to make the table a dialogue. A table that is conversational, from history to the current statement, public training. Thank you very much. Sorry if my audio is bad.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Samuel, for the clarification. Now, Professor Kwade, you have the floor. Thank you.
Well, thank you, the moderator, Ms. Grace. Thank you, MTU Organ House. Thank you, Dr. Karinde. God bless you. Thank you. I always feel excited being here, and I'm more excited in the last 2-3 editions, having our graduate students coming up. here. Sincerely, I'm very, very happy with myself that we are turning out not just these graduates, but the areas in which they are just researching on. I'm very, very happy. God bless MTU and God bless Organ House. Miss Grace, I don't think anybody can describe you more than the way Professor Kade Samuel has done. She described your presence well. She described your presentation well. Thank you, Dr. Andy, for recognizing Professor Samuel. Is the current provost of the college, graduate college or postgraduate college, University of Ibadan. So,
Provost elect, sir. Provost elect, sir. Provost elect.
I thought he has assumed duties. Thank you, Dr. Adese, provost elect. Okay. I thought he had assumed their duties. Most of us are so much eager to have him on that seat because we know what he's capable of. But having said all this, I want Ms. Grace to also highlight some of these things, especially the area in which we observed that since there was no in-depth interview with the artists on this particular thing, our language will be very clear in writing. Our interpretation of it, of the text, of the music. I don't know the type of thematic analysis we are going to do in that thesis. But one thing is that once you are here, is the quality assurance stage. And I think that is why the organizer is also bringing graduates to come and do this one. So your work will be very full. Whether you are doing the ethnomusicological review or analysis or musicological analysis of that particular chapter, that particular case study, it's also good if you have in-depth interview with the artist. There's going to be another narrative of it. But since it's our own interpretation from the existing literature, from what everything you have said about 2,000 or 200 million Mumu, everything that I've listened to anyway, I did not see anyone that is contrary to things that should be. I'm saying that they are just quite in order. It's also good for us as scholars, as a growing scholar, to also know that these are my interpretation, understanding against the backdrop of musicological studies. So there will be a difference between what the artist intends to say and what you are interpreting it to be. The good thing about Lagbaja is that there's a sharp difference between Lagbaja and our traditional musicians. If you talk to our traditional musicians, let's take the Anyo people, and you ask them, how do you, what happens that these drums talk, this yalu? All they will just tell you is that, well, they may not be able to explain, but Lagbaja can explain what he does, just like Fela and a few other people too. So I'm just emphasizing that let it also be there, that these are musicological interpretations against so backdrop. Having said all this, I think Ms. Grace has done very, very, very well. And we are proud of what we have been listening to since we are having our students, either as moderators or as presenters. Again, God bless MTU. God bless Organ Series. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kwadi. Grace, you have any response whatsoever?
Thank you, Dr. Okwadi. Your observations have been taken.
God bless you.
And thank you for the nice words too.
All right. Thank you. Yes, Professor Kayode Samuel, we can have you again now.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted, when Professor Ogwado was speaking, I was smiling to myself when he suggested that maybe Grace could attempt to have a one-on-one interview session with Lagbaja. I wanted to say good luck to you on that. But when you see Lagbaja, can you identify Lagbaja? Do you know Lagbaja? He's nobody. He's everybody. You say a man in a mask. So I'm saying good luck to you if you really want to interview Lagbaja. You describe him as around. So, and whenever he comes around to interact with us within the terrestrial ball, then perhaps you will be You'll be so lucky to have an engagement with him. But on a more serious note, I doubt that you'll be able to get any interview session with Lagbaja, except he changes his mind. The last time I had a discussion with him, please, let's distinguish between Bisade Ologunde and Lagbaja. They are not the same. Conceptually, they are not the same. They are the same in person, but Lagbaja is an artist. Bisade Ologunde is the manager. Although they are one and the same. But so let's not make that confusion. He wants to identify himself as Lagbaja, and that's the way he has described himself. A man, faceless, is everybody, is nobody, is anybody, and is somebody. So that's the way he has described himself. And I think we should respect that too. But I'm saying, as far as I know, except he changes his mind tomorrow, Lagbaja no longer grants interviews to people. Even scholars, you can ask Adegoke how much. It took us 6 months trying to persuade him. He vehemently refused. So that's why when it was being suggested, I said, well, good luck to you. But I think it's still valid for you to just let us know. It's your own reading. It's your own interpretation of the media texts. And that's valid for us as in scholarship. I just wanted to chip that in. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Kayode Samuel. Yes, and we have, okay. Before we come back to you, Dr. Samuel Jose, Dr. Shinwaje also signified to share his perspective. Dr. Shinwaje, you have the floor, and then after you, please, I crave your indulgence, Dr. Samuel Jose, I'll come back to you. You have the floor now, Dr. Shinwaje. Yeah, Dr. Shinwaje, you have the floor now. You may unmute, sir, and you have the floor. Hello, can you hear me, Dr. Waji?
It's probably still muted.
Yeah, he's still muted.
Okay.
Okay, we have him
Yes.
now.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I'm not actually sharing any a perspective. Well, perhaps it's by extension it becomes a perspective on what Grace is saying. I just wanted to make a comment, a little comment, to what my Professor Okwade said. One of the things that he said a few moments ago, by saying that if you ask a traditional musician, maybe a dundun player or something, a talking drummer, to tell you how the drum talks, perhaps he'll just say something like, well, that he is not able to explain. My prof, Eforoji, sir, I beg to differ on that. I don't think it is that they cannot explain. Don't forget that there's a schooling system in the drum language, in the drumming art of the Yoruba people, for example. But if you ask, if you as a layman, you ask a talking drummer, how is it that the talking drum how is it that the drumming is talking? One of the reasons why he will give you such a response is that it is not in his place at that time to come and be divulging something that is like cult knowledge to you, a layman. So I don't think it is that they cannot. They actually can explain it. They can explain it. I've spoken with. In the course of writing and putting together my thesis on speech surrogacy on African pianism, I've spoken with a number of talking drummers, master drummers. They can't explain it. It's just that if you just come to them as a layman and you are asking them to divulge what they think is called secret, Of course, they will be more discreet. They will give you an evasive answer, such as, that kind of answer. Okay, so they can't actually explain. I'm sorry about this, Prof, but I think I differ, on this point with you a little bit. I just wanted to chip in a little bit on that. Thank you very much, my Prof. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, Dr. Awaji. Let me quickly say that you don't need to be sorry about it. You don't need to apologize. But we are talking about scholarship. There's nothing wrong in coming with another conversation. Build another conversation through interrogation. You don't need to be sorry sincerely, and I mean it. There's not to be sorry about. It's I'm coming from the part of my own experience, and I will tell you, I worked on palace music in Yoruba land for 6 years. And I think Professor Samuel is also here, was probably part of those who supported me that year. And you get to the field, and the people you are working with are not most times the modern day talking drummers that we have all around. And you have gone to a place like Iseyin or like Oyo, and you are talking to an 80-year-old drummer, a 75-year-old drummer, or in Abeokuta, for this, where was my location. And they say that, well, when you are going through the bush path, because when our forefathers were going to the farm, they always talk through the bush path. And there's a particular tree that listens to what they say. That's why such trees used so that they can imitate man's voice. I can tell you, I will not be able to tell you what I met on the field that were given to me in confidence, that I could not even write. All of us know the ethics of research. I could not even write it down because the question would be, how did you get to know? How can you prove it scientifically? And since philosophy and science deal with empirical objects, you will not be able to say that. So I am saying that, and referring to that for those who are very old in the art, and that's the best they will tell you. Not that they cannot explain. No, not that they cannot explain. I have some explanation about it, which I will not even say it on this field. On this medium now, that are private to me, but I'll share it in my research class, and I've told my students, you cannot write it down because they will ask you, how did you get to know? And we are talking of musicians who stay in the palace and they don't play anywhere else. They are just meant for the palace. So the best they will also tell you is what I said. I was not making a general statement of, oh, nobody knows what happens. No. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you, Dr. Waji.
Thank you very much, Prof. Okay, Dr. Ajay, yes, you have the floor.
No, I just responded with a thank you to the clarification that Prof. Okwade just said now.
All right. Thank you very much.
Dr. Waji, you can't just say thank you like that. You have to come with a bottle of Shinap because we are talking of Yoruba music.
Well, this bottle of Shinap that you just talked about now, that's why I had to
Don't talk of Shinap on MTU platform, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kwade and Dr. Waji, for the short, brief conversation in between the entire conversation that has also shed some light into an aspect of the presentation. This is well appreciated. Yes, dear friends and colleagues, while we are gradually winding down, we can still take a few more perspective, question or clarification, or perhaps curiosity concerning the presentation. You can still unmute your mic or maybe indicate, and then I'll call you up. Thank you very much. Thank you. That is it's a crucial part of every seminar we have, that we are able to hear from friends and colleagues on this platform. Okay, I have a hand. Okay, Dr. Samuel Joseph, thank you.
Well, Grace, I just want to say you have enjoyed so much, Grace, today. When I say this, just to, that you have scholars who have worked on Lagbaja in terms of scholarship, and that you also have people who have also worked with him on stage, coming in to make interventions. It shows that your work really has some currents. I mean, that has brought all of us together to engage in your work. So, like Dr. Irene said, all of these comments are just to give your work some depth, and it doesn't mean you have to take all of them. So I think that should be pointed out. I just wanted to. This is for consumption. I mean, when Professor Kayode is Lagbaja and Ologunde, I want to bring my own field experience here. I interviewed with Isaac Ajiwale, and who is so popularly known as Ojagba.
Hello, sir. Are you there? We can't hear you.
He told me, he gave, the description. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, what was the last thing? What did you hear last?
You are going to talk about Isaac, the...
Okay, yes, okay. So I said, I mean, I was just going to, bring out my own, shed my own experience on this issue of, distinguishing between artists in their, and their artistic regalia and of the artistic regalia. So I interviewed Wole Agba, and I said, who is Wole Agba? And it was, I was shocked that he gave me a total description from who Isaac Ajiwale was or is. And he even tried to, to periodize his transformation as Wole Agba. And he told me this, he said, even though I could access him, but he told me that in terms of his stage artistry and his person, they are two different entities. So I'm just saying that this can also help when we go out for interview. If people have stage names, you may want to ask them, who is this person? Apart from what is their, their name, their, personal identity. I think I just feel maybe this will help somebody for another minute of view.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel Ajose. I mean, with the perspectives, with the reflections, with the questions, with the curiosity, with the opinions and, even scholarly engagement that we've had so far, it has now become obvious that Lagbaja is a phenomenon that we can unpack in many ways. There are many layers to Lagbaja. Yes, Dr. Oladele, thank you. You have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Just a quick one. First, again, I think it's an interesting day today because it's not a usual type of conversation where we have big professors and and we're having more like a full hours, not in terms of quantity again, in terms of who so thank you so much everyone for joining us today. And Prof. Sam, thank you. I'm going to call you today, so I want to take that opportunity to quickly buy that space. Yeah, thank you. Then to come back to what Dr. Samuel just explained, I think generally, I think the first thing I want to say, Mumu is, and again, from Prof. Kayode also, Fela, Lagbaja, there's a kind of intersection, but they operate in different ways. But their thematic development in terms of engagement with politics, there's also a kind of connection there. Lagbaja came with Zombie in the 70s, then in the 80s, it came with Beast of No Nation, which Zombie is about local politics. Beast of No Nation is about global politics. It's about global politics, Margaret Thatcher, the UN, the apartheid, South African white leaders. So it's the same thing. Then there's another one again, I think in the early 70s, in the early 1990s, then now we have Lagbaja using the same format, that's one. But in reality, this shows, it points us to another level of our scholarly business, which is about the discourse of identity, which also emerged in the early 80s. So the question of identity is that which scholars have proved over the years is that there is no one identity to one person, even beyond the artistic stage. we are all performer of a sort. When we go to our house, we are different personnel. When we go to office in the morning or whatever we do, we act differently. And each engagement we have on a daily basis, we perform differently. So this is just to locate this specific artistic conversation into the broader everyday discourse of people. So generally, we are an ambiguous personnel, all of us, because we don't have one ways of being. The forms of being is quite saturated. It's quite ambiguous and heterogeneous in nature. So the same thing applies to most of these musicians, and not just for the Afrobeat categories, Fela although I'm not too sure of. We need to, like Prof said, Lagbaja is quite fluid and intentional about his categorization. We can say it belongs to the post-genre discourse. It does not fit into one genre, but it's claiming them and it's doing something different. Afro Calypso, Afro this, Afro that, Afro this. Yeah. So we can get it. But the point I am making in that sense is that the question of identity is a big discourse, which also shapes many other things. But as our job as scholars, our point of engagement is not just the mask in this sense. It's not just the interview. Even like Prof said, it's the lyrics. It's a point of entry, the interview. So they all function in different way, and they can be engaged also in different way, and they can come together under one analytical dynamics. That's just to open that for grace that, look, I think you need to go back to the board, the working board, and take everything here into consideration. Of course, I want to try to understand that this is not just for this presentation or your mass or your thesis. It's actually for your scholarly archive.
Scholarship.
So, yeah, particularly if you want to advance this line of conversation, which I think, according to Professor Kayode, is promising. Yeah, I don't know what he saw in your presentation, but I think there's a kind of, so that is just my own point. Otherwise, thank you, everyone. It's also nice. It's been nice to see all of us every Thursday like this. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aladile Enridi, for that quick and concise perspective and contribution there. Yes, with this, I would love to remind you again that our International Hybrid Symposium for the Organ House Concert and Seminar Series is coming up July 13th to 17th, 2026, with the theme reflecting African music in a changing global order. Representing African music in a changing global order, reflecting on African music and studies in African music today, where we are going to have quite interesting and engaging conversations from various presenters around the world. And please follow us on our social media handles, Organ House Concert and Seminar Series on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, and importantly, on our YouTube content space, where that serves as our digital archive, where our past seminars and this present one, you will find them there. Thank you very much for joining. It's quite insightful today and interesting. Please join us again next week, Thursday, the same space, the same time, for another series of Organ House Concert and Seminar Series. Please find the link to our YouTube in the comment section. That's a direct link just before the call ends. Please you could copy the link to our YouTube channel in the comment section. Thank you very much, everyone, and
thank you very much.
have a
It's
wonderful
been
day.
a pleasant session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.